Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Ashers, and this is
Pat O.
Pet O. How's your weekend?
Oh, Jesus, what a fucking loaded question that was. I'm
Oh,
gonna start off. I'm
like
gonna
you
start
don't
off.
expect it every week now. What?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, I'm
Always
gonna
a
start off.
surprise.
I'm
Go
gonna
ahead.
start off with a disclaimer here, okay? If you're one of the hundreds of listeners that reached out to us after last week's episode, complaining that there was not enough Pat O in your interview with Tanya, you're in luck because I'm about to go on like a 15-minute rant. Okay.
Okay.
If you're like the other third of our audience that can't stand the fucking sound of my voice and it's only here because of Asher's, just skip ahead to the 15-minute mark because that's probably when we're gonna get into the hellier shit.
Where'd
All
you
right.
get these statistics from?
I'm just going by the voicemails we get left at 77359 weird. Like, you know, and all the plays we get on YouTube. That's all the numbers I have access to. But
Anyway, go ahead.
yeah,
What's your rant?
so Friday night was fairly uneventful. I got together with my last podcast people. Before I did this, I did a podcast for Loyola College Radio called Radio One Chicago, and it kind of it was where I met Tobias. I had him on there. It was not a paranormal podcast. It was interviewing people from the Chicagoland area and Chicago stories and stuff. And Tobias's Mothman thing kind of fit in there, and I was able to do like my coast to coast episode. That was kind of a backdoor pilot, I guess, for me coming on here because I always wanted to do this,
Sure.
right? But so got together. The chick that I co-hosted with, Janine, she threw a dinner party. She's like one of these like people that does adult things that normal people do, like get together with friends and have dinner parties where people talk about like social issues and shit, like the kind that you see represented in movies but you never actually go
Yeah, I've
to.
never been in one of those ever.
Right, and neither of me until I started hanging out with her. So like she does this like every couple months, and she's a very good friend, and like I go just to kind of support her, and she helps me out with my side business and shit. So like we're good. And went there and I saw her, and I saw my old producer Hex, and it was all right. It was a good time. We went to this Mexican place, Mago Grill and Cantina in Arlington Heights, which I recommend. And it was good. And people started getting drunk eventually and talking about the Ukraine shit, and I just fucking pieced out because that was that. So it was also the same weekend that I was supposed to have my daughter, and came home, and
Oh my god, I forgot all about this. Okay, yeah, go
yes.
ahead.
So I came home. My daughter's like on the phone, and I walk in the house and I kind of say hi to her. And my son's upstairs playing Minecraft in his underwear, and my wife's watching TV in the bedroom, and I'm kind of like playing with the dogs and just like putting my shit away. And my daughter's phone is like ringing off the fucking hook. So she goes to bed, and I kind of stick my head in my wife's the bedroom where my wife's at, and I'm like, "Do you notice that like my daughter's been on the phone all night?" And she's like, "Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but she was talking to somebody earlier, and she didn't like they didn't go to the same school." She was like, "Well, what grade are you in and shit?" And this is what my wife overheard. So I'm kind of like a little bit alarmed now. So I text my daughter's mother because I have joint custody of my daughter. I have her every other weekend. And I say, hey, our daughter's been on the phone a lot. Can you check the call log and see who she's been talking to? Like, I don't know. This is kind of uncharacteristic of when she's over. Usually she's over and she engages with us and she's like present. And, from before I went to dinner to when I came back, whenever I saw her, she was on her phone with people. And, her mother texted me back that night and was like, yeah, well, today was a really big day for her. A boy that she really likes said that he liked her and she liked him back. And I was like, oh, okay. And she goes, don't freak out. He's a really good kid. I've talked to him before. Um, he's in her class. They're in the same grade together. And, this means a lot to her. So please don't ruin it. Don't be a fucking lunatic.
Okay.
And I'm not like that, right? Like, I'm not like, nobody's good enough for my daughter. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I want her to, part of being young is being in love.
Sure.
And like, I am not trying to stand in the way of this whatsoever. So I'm like, okay, fine. Like, that's cool. So, but at the same time, it felt weird that like when this boy texted her and asked her out, like I was sitting like right next to her and she didn't say word one about it to me. She turned around and texted her mother to tell her.
Oh.
right? So like that kind of fucking hurt my feelings, but whatever. I'm a big boy. I get over it. Saturday morning rolls around, and I wake up and make my daughter breakfast, and we're sitting there eating, and because she gets up early like me, she's my son's asleep. Fucking my wife, I don't know, she's doing whatever. Me and my daughter are sitting there eating, and I'm like, let's watch Turning Red. I haven't seen it. I was making. I know it's supposed to be about getting your period and shit, and I'm like, yeah, let's watch it together. And she's like, yeah, and I'm like, yeah. So we sit there and we watch it. We have a good time. My son comes down, he watches it with us. We all have a great time watching this movie. Great family bonding moment. And then I get changed and shit because I got to go to the shrink. So I go to the shrink, get out of the shrink, and I have a fucking slew of missed calls on my cell phone, right? And I'm like, all right, like let's see who this person is. Try calling him back, and it doesn't go through. Okay, so my whole car ride home from the shrink, I'm trying to call this person, but whenever I get connected, I can't hear anything, and then the phone goes dead. But then this person keeps calling me back. So I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Right? Like I think it's like something like important or something. Why wouldn't you? This person's repeatedly trying to call me. So finally I get home. My daughter's sitting there. I'm like, hey, let's make lunch. I make lunch for her. You can tell like a big part of my relationship with my daughter is making her food and then we eat it together. And we're sitting there talking, and she goes, "So, what doctor's appointment did you have?" She thinks it's something with my heart, and I'm like, "No, I went and I saw my psychiatrist, and talking to her about the importance of feelings and embracing your feelings and thinking about your feelings and rationalize, all this stuff. Having a really good teaching moment with her, talking about mental health and the importance of it. And my phone goes off again,
Huh.
and I
Okay.
pick it up, and it's this little fucking prick. All right, it's this little 10-year-old fucking kid talking shit to me on the phone, playing the fucking like, who is this? I'm like, who's this? He goes, Joe. And I'm like, Joe? Who's like, Joe Mama? And I'm like,
Oh
oh,
no, he got you
this
good.
fucking, that's like the equivalent of a ball tap. And I'm like, this little fucking cocksucker. So I get off the phone with him, and I turn to her and I said, who the fuck did you give my phone number to? And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, bullshit. I'm like, give me your fucking cell phone. And I'm going to check the phone number in your contact list against the phone number that just called me. Because the stupid little dickhead didn't use star 67. He's been calling me this whole time from his cell phone and didn't block the number. So I checked the number against the phone number in her phone. And sure enough, it's her fucking boyfriend, Evan. All right. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And she's like, I don't know. I don't know why he did that. And I'm like, you gave him my phone number. And she goes, no, I took a picture of our dog and your phone number was on the dog's tag. And I was like, all right, well, hey, okay, teaching moment. Be careful what you fucking take pictures of and post on the internet. Because you
Right.
didn't even, right? Like, it's a perfect example. You never know what's in the background. You never know that, you're not, you got to look at this shit before you send it. So I get on a conference call with her mom, and I tell her mom what this kid just fucking did to me. And her mom's like, I don't know what to say. And I'm like, this kid's a fucking asshole. He's a piece of shit. This is the fucking dumbest thing he could have done. I have loved many girls in my day. Never once have I prank called any of their fucking parents. Okay. On top of that, if the girl that robbed me of my virginity, fucking Leslie Bedore, had prank called my mother, do you know what my mom would have done? My mom would have fucking put my hand on the stove. Like, my mom would have killed me and then killed Leslie and then killed Leslie's fucking family. Now, granted, my mother was a fucking lunatic when I was younger, but like, this is something that we would have never done growing up.
Yeah.
We would have never prank called somebody's fucking parents. And I was like, the fact that this kid prank called me shows that he's fucking stupid, number one. And number two, he's got no consideration for you because this is not something you do to somebody that you like. All right. And if he shit on you by doing this, he's going to shit on you again. So fucking just be warned. Dad called it. This dude's a fucking prick. And she's like, she's upset. And her mom's upset. And her mom's like, I'm going to come get her. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. Oh my God. That
Okay.
was my
So
fucking weekend.
hold on. Slow down. All
And
right.
then, okay, no, let's talk about, okay, I'll let
No,
you give your.
hold on. I got something to say, and
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I've shared this story, but I'm gonna share a story, and it's a good one, I guess. So, first of all, We prank called people when we were kids. I mean, we'd get in trouble if we got found out about it, but I mean, that's that. You didn't prank call people when you were that age?
I called businesses or I called random numbers. What I
Well,
didn't do was call my friend's parents.
I mean, we would star 67 or shit, but we'd call. Well, and you're right. I mean, maybe not necessarily our kids' parents. One time, this boy gave me his phone number at the skating rink, and I um called the next day, and I was like, "Hey, is so and so there?" I don't even remember his name. Is so and so there? And his mom answered. She was like, "Excuse me." I was like, "Oh, is so and so there?" I was like, and she was like, "No, no, no, no." She was like, "You do not call my phone without first asking me how I'm doing." So every time I called this boy and she answered, I'd have to say, "Hey, how you doing?" And then after that, I could ask. So, you know, but like I said, we also prank called people. So, like I said, I think I told this story before on the show, but I'll tell it again. So we ended up getting fucking lucky, and we got the phone number to a payphone, and we used to prank call the shit out of this payphone all the time. Most of the time, nobody would answer. And actually, we ended up getting this number because it was given to one of our friends from a boy, and it wasn't really his number. It was a fucking payphone, and we found out. So then once we found out, oh man, we prank called the shit out of this payphone. So one time we did it, and we called the payphone or whatever, and we would just say stupid shit. Like I think with this time we were just yelling balls and hanging up as soon as somebody answered. And anyway, one time the number called us back, and we were like, "Uh oh." So we answered the number. We found out that it ended up being two teenage boys on the other end of the number, the payphone, and they wanted to meet up with us, and we fucking invited them out to meet up with us. And like our parents aren't home. It's like a Saturday night. The parents aren't home. Meet these fucking random ass other teenagers. Now they did end up being teenagers, but like how fucking dangerous was that? I mean, that was terrible. And like
Right.
I was very young. I was probably like actually probably your daughter's age, like 10 or 11.
Oh my
So
god.
I mean, and then all my friends were fucking teenagers. I mean, that's who I hung out with. And so but we all met up, we had a good time, it was fun, but I mean, your daughter could be doing shit like that. So, I mean,
Well, first of all, I don't know what the fuck she's doing because they're not telling me. You know what I mean? And which is not not something I'm going to try to unpack in the intro segment of this week's episode of Wednesdays We Talk Weird. But like, there's a component of that. But I also feel like this isn't. Sometimes we say, well, it's not the worst case scenario, therefore it's okay. And I think that's a very dangerous thing to get into with parenting, right? I think that sometimes you have to draw a line in the sand and say, no, this is the level of behavior that I find acceptable. And I'm drawing that line in the sand because I am the parent, and that's what parents get to do is draw lines in the fucking sand. Okay. So me saying that like I don't find this behavior acceptable, and like you saying like, well, it could be worse. Okay, that's fine. You're right. It could be worse. I would find that also unacceptable. All right. Doesn't change the fact that no, I don't. And maybe this is something we can get the audience to chime in with 77359 weird, or hit us up on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. Like prank calls. I listen. I used to prank call the convenience store across the street from my house all the fucking time, but I never called my friend's parents. Like I feel like that crossed the fucking line. And the fact that this is supposed to be some boy that likes her, and the first thing he does is to prank call her fucking father? What's going to happen with the guys that she dates in high school? They're going to fucking slash my tires? You know what I mean? Is her husband going to fuck me on his wedding night? Like where the fuck does this shit end? You know what I mean?
at least it starts with a prank call and
And
it
that's
ends
with
with
rape.
pegging.
And that's with pegging. Not a pegging when he's got a dick. You're just getting fucked. I don't know, man. I feel like this is like, I feel like that there's sometimes, especially when you're dealing with kids at this age, you can look at the behavior for what it's worth, face value in the moment, but you also have to use a little precognition and look at what this could conceivably lead to 4 moves down the road. And I don't think I overreacted by getting upset about this. I don't think this is an appropriate game for kids to fucking play. Like, I don't know. And I'm all about anarchy and rebellion and shit. I love turning red. You know what I mean? I think kids should be in some type of conflict with their parents. I think that's perfectly acceptable. But this just maybe it's me being a hypocrite, but this just feels different. I don't know.
I think that there probably is more to unpack to the situation, maybe, and maybe that's why you feel so strongly about it. I've learned today that you and I are definitely very different parents, and that's okay.
How's I mean, yeah.
That's okay. It's all right. You can feel that way. I don't feel like it's a huge offense. But then again, I'm fucking goofy, and I mean, I wish people prank called me now, and they don't. Nobody does that anymore. It makes me kind of sad.
They were a group of malcontents that got my fucking phone number from my daughter. My own daughter
Said
fucking
Joe
offered me
Mama
up.
though. Sorry.
Jesus. Little
That's pretty
fucking
good. that's, that's a banger.
it's a banger. Fuck you. I had funnier shit. I used to do voices. I used to do characters. I go listen to the Jerky Boys. That's prank calling. Like that's the thing is that like it's not that it's not the prank call itself. And it's not necessarily the lack of imagination either, although I will harp on that. It was
It's
very
funny because like you walk
rudimentary.
right into it, you're like Joe who.
Well, I'm sitting there eating a ham sandwich with my daughter. I'm not fucking thinking about what's going on. And but I just feel like and the fact that this had gone back and forth over the course of like a half hour, like these calls back and forth and back and forth, and the tension built unknowingly to him. I'm sure he didn't orchestrate that part of it. He was just fucking goofing around. But like it had built up to this climactic moment where I'm like, who the fuck is this? Joe Mama. And and you're just like, you little shithead. And then
Yeah,
I look at her and I'm
I'd
like,
be
who
kind of
did
pissed
you?
too. I'd be like, God damn it, you fucking got me with the Joe Mama.
And then her being like, I don't know who that was. Oh yeah, I do. It's my boyfriend. I don't know how I got your number. Oh yeah, the dog. And I'm like, so speaking of prank phone calls, the third part about my weekend that I want to talk about real quick is that I finally watched Hellier season 1, which all stems from a prank email that the guys got about going to fucking Hellier to investigate the Goblin story. So I loved the first episode. I was completely fucking enraptured by it. I thought it was absolutely terrifying what they were setting up with the potential goblin case at the house and everything. And if you haven't seen Hellier, you have no idea what I'm talking about, and I apologize. But I feel like most of our listeners probably have seen
I
it
probably
because
do, yeah.
I was like literally the last person in the world to watch it. But as the series went on, diminishing returns, and I felt that it ended kind of with a fizzle, with them going out into that cave and finding like a tin can that was supposedly Indrid Cold, which is like the most fucking ridiculous thing I've ever heard. But what was interesting was that I was watching the season finale. I will get around to watch season 2. I'll maybe this week, if not, in the near future. But watching the season 1 finale, and I realized like the reason that the season 1 finale consists of them like just kind of yelling into this cave and then taping like ping pong balls over their eyes to fucking do experiments and shit is because they literally had nothing else to end the fucking season 1 finale with. Like nothing happened in that cave. And if any and I posted this on Twitter, and the gist of my tweet was basically like I felt the frustration of the filmmakers that like and if you as an audience member are kind of bored and frustrated by the season finale of Hellier, imagine what the filmmakers had to go through when this is all they could film. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I was being very sympathetic kind of in a way. Well, the one dude who must have had a Twitter like keyword search set for his account immediately fucking quote tweets me and fires back with, well, we didn't know it was the season finale, which I don't know if I necessarily believe that. And, we may do with what we have and blah, blah, blah. Which, here's the thing. To which I responded, like, I asked them if they had brought guns with to kill the goblins, right? Because you're going in the cave to kill goblins, right? Or you're going in the cave because you think you're going to find these fucking goblins. What kind of arms did you bring with? What was your weaponry? What was your loadout, right? And he said, none of us actually went into the cave thinking that we were going to find goblins. However, in season 2, and then gives me this fucking like fucking sales pitch for season 2. So I'm like sitting there like flabbergasted because number one, I did not expect to interact with this guy. You should be able to go on Twitter and talk shit about somebody without them like responding to you, right? Like, because The previous night,
etiquette.
I had watched Deep Water on Hulu, and I was like, "This movie fucking blows." But Ben Affleck was the bomb in Phantoms, and like shit like that. Ben Affleck didn't fucking jump down my throat, being like, "Hey man, I worked really hard on that movie, and thank you. I was the bomb in Phantoms." Right? But this prick from Hellier is like, "Hey, yeah, you fucking, did you say Hellier? Here I am to fucking
Yeah.
respond to what you just tweeted to like your 400 fucking followers." Like, dude, nobody. You just gave my criticism a bigger fucking microphone by retweeting me. And of course, this is why like I never interact with celebrities, air quotes, is because now it's been 24 hours roughly since I posted this. I don't know if you've heard it. My cell phone's still going off with fucking notifications because it's like my buddy Mike Vanderbilt. I never tweet at him because God forbid me and him get into a Twitter exchange. He's got so many fucking followers that my phone will ding for fucking days with people liking and
Yeah.
responding and retweeting. It's a fucking pain in the ass. So I don't know, man. Hellier. And then I was like, you know, like I get like it was very weird because it was like I had just watched the show. It took me so long to watch the show. And now I'm in a dialogue with one of the creators, like almost as an accident. But what I didn't get was that, I mean, and I'll let you talk for a minute and I'll actually pull up the tweet so I can quote it directly. His whole thing about them not going into those caverns expecting to find, he's like, well, no one expected to find goblins, so the only thing we brought to shoot were cameras. And I was like, what? Like, you didn't expect to find anything? Then why did you go? Like, what was this all about if you didn't think anything it was real? And then the way that he pitched season 2, it almost seemed like they were trying to reconceptualize or reframe the series as like a true crime thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you just have to watch it. You know,
I will. I mean, hey, he
you
sold
didn't
another fucking
summarize
thing.
it incorrectly. I can tell you that. But I agree. Season 2 just goes way different than season. That's what I tell people. I didn't really like season 2, but I enjoyed the hell out of season 1. But you know, there's one thing that you have to understand about about the people investigating this. They're paranormal investigators. They don't believe that there's flesh and blood stuff out there. They believe that this is all like interdimensional. So it wouldn't matter anyway if they took guns and bullets out to for some goblins, because you're not going to hit them anyway. You know, you're not gonna strike one. You're not gonna kill it. They believe that this is all spiritual.
Really?
I don't know how you didn't get that from season 1.
Well, I didn't, because when you talk about the
Apparently you didn't, yeah.
Hopkinsville, I mean, because they thought that this was okay. Because if they were spiritual beings, why would they need the Mammoth Cave system to physically travel from one end of Kentucky to the other?
I agree with that, and maybe it's because of things that are said in season 2 that maybe that's why you haven't gotten there yet. But no, I mean they don't think that they don't think they're physical things. They
Well,
think,
clearly that's what he's saying now, but I don't,
yeah,
from what I saw in season 1, which it was supposedly the story developing in real time,
yeah. But
I don't
even
see
then,
how they could think they weren't.
so if you ask a bunch of people that do actually actively go out and investigate, we will all tell you that you need to bring a gun with you. But do you know how many of us actually carry guns?
Well, every time you go with me moving forward, you'll have one with you.
Well, that's you, right? But we don't a
I'm sure you
lot.
guys don't. No. That's what I mean. Like, I'm sure you guys, yeah.
We don't a lot. We should. You always should. But like, I don't own a gun. I take people with me that do own guns. I try to, at least. But if they're not available, I'm still gonna go out and investigate. And if I die, I die. You know. But you should. You know, you should always take weapons with you in the
But
woods.
that just kind of says to me, and maybe this is me thinking about this the wrong way, that you're not taking it seriously if you're not taking the potential threat level seriously.
I don't want to kill these things.
Right, but at the same time, if these things are real, there's a very good possibility that they're going to fucking kill you.
But Ron Moorhead
Especially,
says that that's not the case. He says that if you want to have an encounter with something, then you need to not take weapons because they know that you have them.
I don't know. I think that's really setting yourself up to be fucking, I don't know what they would do to you, slimed or whatever.
They're just not looking to hurt anybody, I think is the thing. You know,
Well,
it just depends
if
on
they're
what you think these things are.
I think, listen, I think if we're getting to this level of clairvoyance, then they can look inside my fucking heart chakra
It's not
and realize that,
clairvoyance.
and they can realize that I'm a good natured thing. And just because I have a gun, it's because we're also in the middle of the Kentucky woods and there's bears everywhere, literally fucking everywhere. They're sitting on a porch that says, "Do not feed the bears." That's how many bears there are all over the
In
place.
Kentucky, there is, yeah, but
Right. So
it's
you
not
shouldn't
so much
go that deep into the woods without a gun, period, because of the fucking bears.
right
Not
because you
because of
don't
the
want to ruin
goblin
life,
bears, not
right?
because of the shark bears or the ghost bears, because they're real fucking bears.
Shark bears.
I don't know, whatever, man. Whatever
There's bears.
chimeras they think
No,
are out there.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But it's not because it's a clairvoyant thing. It's because they can smell the gunpowder. It's because they can smell the weapon on you. So you're better off taking a knife than you are a gun. If you want to
Oh,
have an encounter with something,
well, that's why I
take
carry a
sharps.
katana as well. If you invite me out to hunt monsters with you, I will bring a fucking firearm and a katana, a
Are you
bladed
Martin
weapon.
Nunley now? Is that what's going on here?
Who? Oh, that's no. But
I won't get onto that one again. But no, I agree with you. I agree with what you're saying about the season finale. For that, it was very anticlimactic. I don't disagree with what they were doing. I understand what they were doing. But it was somebody said a long time ago, and I think I even told you, Pat. Hellier is about a couple people that have synchronicities. They go out to investigate it, and then they find fucking nothing.
well, so let me. So all right, I did my South Side shit talking about the show. Let me rewind things just a second and say, I do think that it's a very important piece of media, and I can appreciate how it's not necessarily made for people like me, but it does have a very blueprint feel to it. And the same way that, like, when Fight Club came out, you knew you were seeing something that was radically different than what had come before. And you knew that this was like a different type of movie and a different type of storytelling. It was very kinetic. It had energy to it. It felt like you were seeing the birth of something new. Same thing as, like, you know, uh I don't necessarily like the Beatles. I can't appreciate the way the Beatles changed music because I never lived before the Beatles. I only lived in a post Beatles world, right? So when people talk about how the Beatles were a game changer, I can't really conceptualize that, right? But with something like the Sex Pistols, I can, where I can see how the Sex Pistols were a game changer. I could see how music was a certain way before the Sex Pistols, and then you had bands like the Sex Pistols, Clash, Ramones, and that changed things musically. And you can see that. I feel like I'm close enough to that, right? That was only 4 years before I was born. So with Hellier, I feel like I'm not saying it's important as fucking Nevermind the Bullocks or Fight Club. I'm not saying that, what's this guy's name? Greg Newkirk is fucking Malcolm McLaren or David Fincher or Johnny Rotten or anything. But I will say that, like, capturing the paranormal investigator experience, and once again I'm using air quotes, um, I feel like it does a pretty good job of that. And I could see how people would be inspired by Hellier. I could see if you're a kid in a town somewhere that, like, maybe a smaller town, or you kind of have an interest in this, I could see how watching those guys do or not do whatever they set out, whatever their mission was, I could see how that would be inspiring. And I could see how it's kind of well, this is what you do. You go to the place and you talk to people, and you go to the record place and they kind of run you through the spirit box thing, and they run you through the ping pong ball eye trick thing. Um, you know what I mean? Like, they give you some low level tricks to use. They kind of, it shows the process. It feels like a blueprint for this to a certain extent. And that I thought was neat. Even though, like I said, I don't feel like it applies to me, I could still appreciate it for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a far stretch better than finding Bigfoot or mountain monsters, which both of those are just fucking embarrassing, honestly. But I don't, as a professional in the field, I don't necessarily agree with everything that they said or did, or conclusions that they've drawn, or what have you. But then again, you're also missing a piece of the puzzle, which is season 2. So I'm not going to give away anything. But yeah, I mean, I tell people all the time, it's a really good introduction into synchronicity. If it's not a concept that you're familiar with or you would like to know more about, Hellier actually puts it out there, which is something that's hard to capture because it's so personal. And so I will give them credit there. They did capture it pretty decently. But that's a because I'm gonna tweet this out and I'm gonna put fucking Hellier when I tweet out this episode.
Of course. Now we know the guy who fucking.
Oh no, I know. I mean, I'm your Pat again. You were the only person in the world that did not know that. You're the last one to find out. But yeah, I mean, it's not the best thing ever, but it's better than what we've had so far, you know. And while I agree that a lot of these things hold hands together, which I say a lot, you know, again, I don't necessarily agree with what they're getting at. But who knows? Maybe they're fucking right. I don't know. We'll find out, I guess, eventually. You know, I'll give them the credit. They're out there doing the work. Good for them. Good for them.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and they're charismatic enough, I guess. I mean, I'm glad I didn't talk fucking more shit on my Twitter because I was going to, because that's what I do when I watch stuff. It's like a lot of times my Twitter is like me watching and reacting to things to like absolutely nobody.
Yeah, Hellier's not that big.
But I guess, but I don't know, man. I was talking to one of my contemporaries in the field of podcasting. Let me put it like that, about the whole thing, and they agreed that yeah, it was a little narcissistic because obviously, like I said, obviously the dude's got an alert set up to where every time someone says the word fucking Hellier on Twitter, he gets a notification on his phone. Which, like, who does? You know who else does that? And I'm Kevin Smith, and I'm a huge Kevin Smith apologist. But you cannot say Kevin Smith on Twitter without him seeing what you do, and he'll do the same thing too, where someone will shit on fucking a Kevin Smith movie, and he'll quote tweet him and then like burn the dude, and then you have like 5 million Kevin Smith fans being like, "Hey, fuck this guy," And luckily, the Hellier people did not do that to me. Some people actually seem to side with me and what I had to say about that whole thing, but yeah, it was a little narcissistic to say the least. And I like I said, I'll still watch season 2, but you know, part of uh part of how these type of narratives unfold, the success of how the audience perceives them goes on the amount of goodwill that they have for the investigators, right? If you believe the investigators to be genuine, credible people, you will give them the benefit of the doubt. You will give them, kind of the suspension of disbelief, and you will believe that that tin can was actually in that cave, and those motherfuckers didn't bring it with them. All right. Now, I'm not saying that they put it there. I'm willing to, or that they went, or that any of that stuff was engineered. But the reason that you'll believe that that stuff unfolded the way that it's depicted in the documentary is only if you have goodwill and there's the presenters are likable, right? And I gotta say, the fucking Twitter alert on Hellier and that whole thing, that whole exchange with him, made them seem a little bit less credible because it made him seem way narcissistic and way more like they're trying to protect the image. And there was no reason to fucking engage with me whatsoever, absolutely none. But the dude did it because he felt it, because God forbid the co-host of On Wednesdays We Talk Weird post a fucking dissenting opinion about his.
Well, what can I say, Pat? We got a big reach.
I guess so. And then I was like, do they know Ashley? Is that what this is? Like, they saw that I'm her co-host and they felt the need to fucking smack me on the butt. Like, is that what this is? I thought it had something to do with you.
No.
They
just, I mean, read through his Twitter. I mean, you'll see he does it to everybody that says anything about Hellier. He interacts. Like you said, the notification's on, so he does that. Whatever. That's what he does. It's, but yeah, the Hellier people. No, I mean, like I said, good for them for getting out and doing it. I hope they crack some truth open. And they do good things. I don't agree with them so far. Sometimes you just find a tin can in a cave because people litter. So, and people are bad people and litter. I mean, it just happens. But who knows? I mean, I can't tell them what they were feeling at the time that they saw the tin can. I mean, if it was, I get it, but anyway, that's really all I have to say about it. I want you to watch season 2. I think you'll
I
like
will.
season 2 a lot more. I had
Is it more of a true crime thing? Because that's what, like I said, that's
No,
what
it's like
his
a
response.
government conspiracy with fucking sex cults and government people and Illuminati shit, basically. So that's more so what it's about.
You know, I got the distinct. Why? Here's my question. I'm sure you'll be like, "Well, you got to watch season 2," but I can't see because that why anybody except one of his buddies from college or something would send that email fucking with him in the first place.
Yeah,
Like, I think they've already kind of proven that that email was not genuine. That guy wasn't real. There was no trace of the dude living in the town. You know what I mean? It was all kind of BS. And that whoever had sent that email had used a VPN, which that was another thing too, is their explanations of VPNs, verified private networks, was not what like everybody that works with a computer that has a take-home laptop has a fucking VPN. Like, trust me, I worked in the hospitality industry for fucking decades. Everybody that tries to connect to hotel Wi-Fi with a VPN had called me at some point up to their room to help them work it out. Just because you're using a VPN does not necessarily mean you're trying to mask your IP address. Now, that doesn't mean that using a VPN won't mask your IP address, but that's not the reason that people use VPNs. It's so that you can connect to the company's shared drive from a remote location and not put the company's information at jeopardy using the hotel's fucking Wi-Fi network. Okay. That's why it makes you go through a VPN. That's why VPNs are very sketchy dealing with hotel networks. And the fact that that email came from someone using a VPN doesn't necessarily mean that they were using it to mask their IP. It could have been they were using a work computer. They were doing it on the road. They were doing it from a school. There's a lot of other like rational explanations for
right. If he
that.
was a doctor, like I believe he was supposed to be a doctor, then he would have a take-home laptop, and
Right.
it's going to have a VPN on it. Some people just use VPN to fucking watch Australian Netflix or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. No, you're absolutely.
you
You
know,
are 100% no. You're absolutely fucking right. Like that's the other like, but and that's it. That was the one lead that they never talked about following up on. They went to the courthouse. They went to the fucking police station. They went to the sheriff's station. They went to the county assessor's office, all trying to find evidence that this doctor had lived there. But they never talked about following up the doctor angle because if he was a doctor living
go to
in
the
town and he was
hospital,
a
right?
doctor, right? Like you would think that that would cast a much smaller net. Like there's only going to be one hospital if you're in that backwater fucking Kentucky. There's only going to be so many places for a doctor to conceivably work,
Right.
and a doctor abruptly leaving after 9 months is going to be a big deal, and those people are going to remember. And they said nothing about checking with hospitals.
But let me tell you something. Do you know how many emails like that I get?
No.
A lot. I get a lot of emails just like that. Not necessarily about goblins, but about different paranormal phenomena that I would like to follow up on, and then I never fucking hear from them ever again. As a matter of fact, I'm part of the Singular Fortean Society Patreon, and I like to go to their monthly meetup or whatever. And the last one I went to, we talked about that. Me and Tobias Whalen talked about that. How many people that you have that come forward with their stories about things and then they just fucking ghost you. It happens all the time, all the time. Why? I don't know. I don't know. A change of heart because they're worried about being found out. They don't want people to know. Maybe because they do have credible professions, or maybe because it is just completely fucking bullshit. I mean, who knows? Because they're scared to know what they really encountered. I have no idea.
Well,
But
there was no like reason that made sense for them to contact that guy anyway.
no, because that
For
wasn't their thing.
right,
Right.
and the website was like hadn't been updated in like 5 fucking years.
Right. And
So why
so,
would anyone search them out
right. It is weird.
unless they knew him and it was a prank call from some pricks? You know what I mean? Like,
So, I mean, yeah, it could have been somebody they knew, or they still haven't found out who it was. And you know what? Even at this point in time, I think if they found out it was just some asshole that they knew that emailed them one of their buddies. But I do find the pictures and stuff really fascinating. I do enjoy those a lot. But even if they did find out that it was somebody that they knew, do you think that they would tell anybody? Because wouldn't that stop the mystery?
well, that was their obviously like like after the fact spin on it was the whole you know, who knows why we were sent here? Let's forget
Yeah.
about that
Oh,
question.
here's a symptom. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. We discovered it. We were supposed to be here, and whatever means brought us here, brought us here. But now that we're here, we know that something's going on. But it was like I didn't see anything that crazy that was happening in Hellier that doesn't happen in like
Everywhere else.
right.
Yeah.
Like I mean, don't think my neighborhood's got fucking story like Jesus, look at all the ship by O'Hare and the fucking Mothman.
Yeah.
Which are we talking about that this week?
We can.
You know, like I don't know. I mean, there was people had stories like, oh, there's legends around here about this, that, and the other thing, and it's like, all right, well,
I do agree that there are window areas. I do, and that's a concept coined by John Keel, who we'll talk about in a moment. But I do believe that there's window areas. I think that there is something to that. I think that Kentucky is probably one of them, but I think that Kentucky, West Virginia, and Ohio are all part of the same one. And I mean, I think if you hyper focus on any one particular area, then yes, you'll start finding strange shit. So, is it that those areas are special? Well, we'll see. In particular, I will find out because it happens to be exactly what I'm researching. But, I right now, I do believe that there are patterns to this. Um, we just haven't cracked the code yet. And maybe this is just them finding out that there's patterns to this. Which good for them. I'm glad they're jumping on it. Everybody's entitled to their own theories about what they think it is, what window areas are, and they have a different opinion than I do. But that's fine. That's fine. We can all, the paranormal is big enough for all of us. So, um, yeah, that's what I have to say about that. But speaking of John Keel, it's his birthday on March 25th. John Keel's
nice.
birthday. He was born in 1930. I mean, he's dead now, but so he would have been old as fuck on Friday, the 25th. I just wanted to mention that if you don't know who John Keel is, I don't know how you listen to this show for this long and not picked up a John Keel book. Pick it up, read it. Some people find him very controversial because, well, I mean, he just straight up lied about the Mothman, and that's unfortunate. The Silver Bridge collapse was never connected to the Mothman, but John Keel made it sound like it was. But he does have some really amazing concepts. If you haven't read any Keel and you don't know where to get started, because I promise you, there are tons and tons of Keel out there. Start with the Eighth Tower. That's my favorite. That's a really good one. Start with that one and just work your way down the gambit. So, Pat, you ever read any Keel?
No, but you know what? I will say another check in the plus column for Hellier. I did order a couple books off Amazon because they were featured in the show. So
Yeah.
it is responsible for as soon as I'm finished with the Savannah Syndrome book, which I'll spare you guys the update this week because I've talked long enough. They do mention a lot of books that are worth checking out.
They do.
So
Yeah.
Keel's on the list. It'll I'll get there.
Keel's good stuff.
But I think I'm more interested in. I won't go directly to the Mothman Chronicles, which is his go-to. I think I'm going to go to that one that they reference in the finale, which is like a collection of his essays and stuff from other magazines.
Oh, there's tons of those. Tons.
Yeah, like I would rather just read kind of an anthology by him from about different different phenomenon.
I will recommend you things because there's a troublesome publisher that is publishing all of these great researchers' books, and he's a fucking problem, and you should not support him because he tried to sexually harass me in my DM. So,
oh no, you ain't getting my $12.
No, don't give him your $12. But I will recommend you some titles, yeah, for Keel directly, that don't go to that publisher. But anyway. Yeah, so there's that. Well, why don't we go ahead and talk about the latest Mothman sighting?
Sure.
I didn't jot down the details because honestly, I completely forgot about it.
It's entirely bullshit too.
It might be. I'll tell you what I know. New Mothman sighting up not at the Chicago O'Hare Airport, but right outside of it in a construction area. A lady was with her guy friend, and they were getting high and touching each other. And so while they're getting high and touching each other, of course, they saw what they reported to be the Mothman. Big winged humanoid, red eyes, looked like an owl, kind of. And then they also said that security had approached them, yelled at them, wanted to know what they were doing there, told them to put their clothes on and to leave. So they did. And that's the gist of the story. Um, a couple of things to note is that the story comes off as if it takes place on a construction site that's owned by O'Hare, that O'Hare is working on building. However, I don't know how much I can say. I didn't read things. Okay, however, there's a tip that says that there is no evidence showing that this construction site is tied to the airport at all. It just seems to be done by the city, maybe the highway, maybe the roads, something like that. Doesn't seem like it's a part of O'Hare. Another thing that was also of note was that the sighting, of course, came from Manuel, I can't remember his last name, from UFO Clearinghouse. And that's no surprise because damn near every single one of the Mothman sightings at O'Hare have come through Manuel.
Mm-hmm.
And, after this last sighting, where the security pulled up and confiscated their phones because they had video of 3 Mothmen, I just feel, I don't know Manuel. I'm gonna say this right now. I've never met the man. I've never had a conversation with him. I'd love to sit down and talk to him, but I'm feeling some type of way about this because it just seems very odd to me that pretty much all of these sightings are coming through him. Now, I believe one of them, which was the very first one, came actually direct to MUFON, but the rest of them have come through the same guy. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then our buddy Tobias Whalen, he has tried to talk to these people himself, and he's only ever talked to one. And there's been a ton of sightings at O'Hare. So, I don't know. If this did happen, let's just say, pretend for a second that there isn't anything going on here, and this was a real sighting. It didn't take place on O'Hare property, which doesn't matter, right? Mothman doesn't live at O'Hare Airport. I mean, that's silly. But I don't think there's anything to do with the security pulling up and telling these people to get dressed and leave. I mean, if you're trespassing and you're, naked, like that's that's kind of their job, right? Is to fucking tell you to leave. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
so there's no surprise there. I'm not buying
They
this.
weren't exactly the Men in Black coming to your fucking house. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. I mean, it's just security for, like, who knows, Parks and Rec or whatever the fuck it is that they're doing out there. What does it
Right.
matter? That's not strange to me at all. I don't think that that's weird. But we'll see. Pat, what do you think about it?
Yeah, when you pointed that out, and the guy's voices, I just looked at it, Manuel Navarrete. And he was also responsible for a UFO video. He also captured footage of a UFO in Crestwood, which is very close to my house. It's right down the street from me, 2 miles away. And he's got footage of a UFO at the end of 2021. And once again, it's him that's capturing this stuff and seeing this stuff. So I would say that Mr. Navarrete, Manuel, is at the center of this, undeniably. The witnesses seem compelled to report their stories to him and only him. He's where a lot of these now, that could be, me and you talked about this before we did the show, and I said, well, the guy's done so much reporting on the story that maybe when people look for somebody to go to, they naturally see his name pop up,
Sure.
and go to him. And you said that, well, there's other people working on the stories too, and maybe they go to them as well. I don't know, but this guy, I feel like that might be a little bit of a snowball effect, where the more he writes about this, the more he publishes information about it, the more information comes to him to publish. But the fact that he's got a UFO video out of Crestwood is kind of bizarre, because that would suggest that he would potentially live here, or he was just hanging out at Crestwood.
He does live there.
Oh, okay. Well, then the dude's local. I should look him up because he lives 2 miles away from me.
Yeah, he does live there.
But I think that anytime you have one person at the nexus of this, you got to look at, is he some kind of magnet? Is he, why is he intertwined with this story? Is he a facilitator? Is he making this up? Or is he just some kind of magnet for this shit? You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I
I don't
think
want to
that
call
the
the guy
issue.
I don't want to call the guy a liar without having to sit across the table from him.
I agree.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He's never been in my kitchen. I don't know, but I think that definitely his role is greater than that of just somebody that's reporting at this point.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, I think that, you're right. I'm not gonna call him out of his name. Tobias vouches for him, so I trust Tobias.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
But I've never met the guy. Tobias says he seems like a good guy. He doesn't have any reason to believe that he would. I think it was me that approached Tobias with that thought that maybe this guy's making this all up. It's become his
Hmm.
thing now. I don't know. Then again, when I think about it, and I think about how you know. I think about my own stories and my own personal experiences. When I saw the Mothman, when I first told the story of the Thunder Crow on the show, like I felt kind of icky about it because I felt like people would be like, "Oh yeah, of course she's seen these things because that's of course it benefits her." But and I get where people are coming from. Nobody's ever said that to me, but I get where people would be coming from, but it doesn't make it any less true. It still happened to me. You know what I mean? So like,
I don't care who you are. Anytime you've seen something that defies fucking everyday logic, and anytime you've had a brush against with the paranormal, you're gonna worry when you tell the story that people are gonna think you're fucking nuts.
yeah,
This is coming from a self-proclaimed potential abductee or experiencer. I don't want to say abductee. I was not taken anywhere, as far as I know. But yeah, I mean, come on. Like, how did I enter into this fucking podcast? By telling my goddamn alien story. Like,
right. And
and
like,
every time I tell that, I may get better at telling it. I still feel like people are going to think I'm nuts or that I'm just making it up so that we have
right,
something to talk about this episode. You
right.
know?
Right, and it doesn't again, it doesn't make it any less real, and
Right.
so it's just one of those things. It makes me feel weird to share it, but then again, who the fuck else is going to be seeing this shit besides people that are actively out there looking for it? You know what I mean? So like, why wouldn't more reports come from people that are investigating?
That's true.
It's just something to think about. Again, I haven't made my mind up about this guy, but this is kind of where you guys come in. And I'll say this: if you know somebody who has ever or does currently work at Chicago O'Hare Airport, get them in a contact with us.
Yeah.
Even
I
if
don't know if
they
we
haven't talked about the Mothman app, just even if they have worked there at all, get them into contact with us.
So I don't know if I've ever given the audience an update on this, but obviously me and you had been talking about it for a while. I reached out. I know several people that have worked there or currently work there, and reached out to them about this stuff. And some people did not respond whatsoever, and some people responded. I Nobody that I talked to directly had any kind of experience, only that they had heard rumors from other people that work there about sightings. But some of the people that I talked to that worked there had worked there for a very long time.
Yeah.
And their kind of approach to this was like, oh, yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, it's fucking crazy, right? Did you ever see anything? No. Did anyone that you directly know or work with or coworkers that you've been friends with, you worked there 10 years, obviously there were some people that you were at least drinking buddies with. Did anyone ever see anything? No. But yeah, I think I saw something in the news about it. You know what I mean? Nobody said, yes, this is
Yeah,
100%
but then like you
real.
had that one, which I'm not gonna press and or anything like that. But you had that one guy that like once you were like, are they telling people to be quiet about it? They didn't answer ever again,
Yeah, so
which
one
was
guy I
weird.
talked to who's a very reliable source. Um, he has friends and family that worked there and that were in uh, elevated positions. Let's just say they weren't baggage handlers. And I asked him about it, and he said it was kind of 50-50. Some people had stories and some people didn't. And I said, "Oh, well, the people that had stories, like what did they hear? What did they see?" And he would not elaborate.
Yeah, which
And
is
it was just left at that, and he never responded. And I prodded and fucking, come on, man, what do you got?
right would not respond. So I mean,
Yeah.
that is weird. I think that's strange. you know,
Well,
um,
yeah, but I mean, you know what? We're gonna get to this later with Denver International Airport when we get into if we ever get into the
eventually,
fucking show topic.
yeah,
Yeah, I had a similar thing happen with a buddy of mine from Denver, where he made a lot of claims, and when I said, "Hey, we're doing an episode on this. Let me just get some more info from you," he didn't have anything else to fucking say. So I think somehow that's how it goes. People. I mean, look at what happened with Hellier. I want to hate to keep fucking a dead horse, but I mean, like, that's kind of one of the recurring motifs of that show, is that people want to talk to them. People know where there's tracks up in the hills. People want to do this. People want to do that. And then it's like, all right, cool. Well, let's get that information, or let's go up there, and suddenly everyone disappears and no one wants to talk.
Right.
Now, does that mean that Men in Black are showing up and telling them to shut their fucking mouths, or else they're going to wake up on Jupiter? Or is it just that maybe they don't want to sound crazy? Or is it that, I don't really have as much to say as I kind of pretended I did, and now I'm being called out on it. I just want to kind of have this whole thing go away.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly could be a couple of things. That's for sure. So, I mean, I'm more than happy to see, where this situation goes. But yeah, if you guys know anybody that works or has worked at the Chicago O'Hare Airport, get them into contact with me. You don't tell me. You don't come to me and say, "Yeah, I know somebody and they told me this." No, 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 no. You get them into direct contact with me. Tell them I'm taking a fucking survey. It doesn't matter what you tell them. I need to talk to these people. I need to know that there's something here. So you can help in this investigation if you get these people into contact with us, or even Pat. We'll send Pat, or Tobias Whalen. Send them to Tobias Whalen, and he'll come down. He can interview them proper.
You're making all kinds of fucking promises now.
Why?
You're saying one of our illustrious fucking friends of the show will show up at your door and talk to you and take you out for beef sandwiches.
Me and Tobias have talked about this to excess, so he's on board.
Okay, all right.
I've asked him already. I said, "Hey, if I got witnesses up there, can I send you?" He said, "Oh yeah." So he's all about it. So yes, we'll do that. Anyway, on to the next thing. I don't even know if I had anything else for the news. I think that was really it. Oh no, I did actually. I have to share what people's movies were from last week. Do you remember that? What movie you would show an alien if they
right
came down there? I think I got a couple of those. Just gonna run through them real quick. Our buddy Jim Jam over at the Horror Basement and Beyond, which I believe we're going to be on his show soon, right? Isn't that what I hear?
Yeah, actually, I think Sunday, right? Well, we're recording Sunday.
This Sunday?
I think so.
I thought it was next Sunday. Maybe it is this Sunday. I guess it is only Monday. I mean, it's Wednesday, of course.
Right.
But anyway, okay. So I've been on a show before. But he's an avid listener of the show. Awesome, we love you. He said he would show him Tucker and Dale versus Evil because it's funny and he'd enjoy it.
There you go. The most genuine. That was one of the most genuine responses I got.
It was a very genuine response. Our longtime fan, our longest running fan so far, Tony Lee, our mascot for the show. We met him at Marietta. He said, I'd show an alien Freddy got fingered. If they decide not to nuke our asses after saying the lowest point humanity has ever resorted to, then I know we're safe.
I've never seen that movie.
You've never seen Freddy Got Fingered?
And I don't have any aversion to Tom Green, and I heard that, I know it got like 0 stars from Ebert, but it's supposed to be really good. Is it good?
It's not good, but it's not bad.
Okay.
You should watch it. It's worth checking out. It's fucking stupid, but it's worth checking out.
Hey, I'm sold.
I watched it recently as an adult, and it's fucking stupid. And some of the jokes did not age well at all. But Tom Green didn't really. His humor didn't really age well.
Right. No, I hear you.
Maybe some of our audience probably don't even know who Tom Green is.
Oh my god.
Anyway, then our listener Scott, he said that he would show him Doctor Who.
Okay.
I think that's a good pick. That was it, really.
Which doctor?
He didn't specify.
Yeah.
So which doctor, Scott? This is important. And then our buddy Keith Straley, he said, I think I'd show Indrid the movie Patch Adams. I don't think any single film could sum up humanity, but I think that film portrays the complexity in a really beautiful way.
I do not like that movie.
You don't like Patch Adams?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't like the way they handled the murder of the doctor.
Okay.
Like the therapist. Like, I think that was very hacky.
All right.
I remember seeing that in the theater, and when that moment happened, when the patient shows up at her door, being like, what? And the way they just cut with it, I don't know. Because that's such an integral part of the movie, and it was like, I don't know.
Okay. Well,
all right.
Those are our movies that you guys would show an alien or Indrid or, an alien. So.
Okay.
That's thanks guys for participating.
Sure.
One more thing before we get into the show topic, and then we'll get right into it. New merch is out. The Jonathan Dodd Injured Cold design is now live on the merch shop, which you can go below. You can get Injured on a fanny pack or a t-shirt or a pint glass. Actually, I think the pint glasses are really fucking cool. So it's Jonathan Dodd, stay weird, Injured Cold design. It was approved by Tanya Derenberger herself. She likes it. So if she likes it, then you gotta like it. I don't know what Injured thinks of it. I need to ask her. But I know Tanya did tell me recently that Injured thinks highly of me. So
whoa, you're on his radar.
he wants to fuck. I don't think he wants to fuck, but I mean, if he wants to, we can. But yes, I'm on his radar. She says he's not ready to meet people right now, and that's fine. So, but he knows about me, and that's great. So if Injured likes me and I like this design, that means you'll like it too, and you should go to the merch shop, link below, and go buy something with the design on it, or one of the other designs. The fucking Jersey Devil shirts are cool. We got the Ivy the Alien design, which everybody always likes, and then of course the classic on Wednesdays we talk weird logo. We have backpacks now. They're pretty sweet.
Fanny packs.
We got fanny packs. The original logo fanny packs are back in the shop.
Nice.
So you can purchase them. Go buy them so that I can continue to not be in debt as much as I am right now. So that's my pitch. No, if you want to look cool and you want to be cool and you want Injured to think you're cool, go buy one. The Denver airport, Pat.
Yes. This week's topic.
In all fairness, the intro is not going to be as long for the people listening. But let's get into that. Pat, what do you know about the Denver airport?
Wow, where do I begin? Well, the Denver International Airport encompasses 53 square miles of land. It is twice the size of the island of Manhattan. It is larger than the city boundaries of Boston, Miami, or San Francisco. So it's a big fucking airport. It's got a big footprint up there in Denver. It is the largest airport in North America and the second largest in the world. Yet, interestingly enough, it's only the fifth busiest in North America and has 6 runways as opposed to O'Hare Airport's 8. So there's a lot of conspiracies about the Denver International Airport for the reasons that I just mentioned, along with some other ones that we'll get to in a minute. It opened in 1995 during the Clinton administration, although ground was broken in 1989 during the Bush administration, and development started as early as the 1980s under Reagan. There's a lot of speculation as to why the airport took it so long to construct and why it cost as much money as it did. A lot of people have a tendency to think that there's some kind of underground bunker system, that it's going to be a headquarters or it's like a fallout shelter for the global elite in case of an environmental catastrophe or some kind of other event. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that the construction of the airport ran several years over when it was supposed to. And that has a lot to do with the fact that they changed construction contractors during the construction. Some people theorize that was them trying to compartmentalize the construction so that no one person knew the full breadth of construction on the construction crew. You bring in this team of contractors and they handle this part of the job, and then you get rid of them. Then you bring in another team and they handle this part. And that was why the building went 2 years over. It took 2 years longer than projected to complete, and also several $1 billion as well. Not million, billion.
Wow.
So very expensive, very delayed project. And then when it opens, it doesn't even really utilize the full footprint that it encompasses. You're using 53 square miles, but you're doing less with those 53 square miles than what O'Hare does, right? A lot of hubbub has been made over the layout of the runways. If you look at the runways from an aerial view, they seem to form a swastika. And when you look at it, that when you look at it, that runway configuration seems to kind of make sense, because you have the planes taking off in different directions. However, if you look at airports of the world, there's there's other runway configurations that one could use that don't necessarily involve creating swastikas. So I don't know how much of a smoking gun that is, or how accurate it is that that was the only runway configuration that the airport could use. Now, the Denver area already has another airport that is fully functional and still in service. So a lot of people questioned why the Denver International Airport was even built in the first place. Did the city need two airports, right? Chicago has two airports, right? We have Midway and O'Hare. Midway is more of the smaller local airport. My family actually just flew out of it today to go to Orlando. But O'Hare is international, right? And the Denver International Airport obviously is international. So that's kind of two different rackets that they got going on. The smaller airport in Denver had kind of outgrown the city and could no longer accommodate the city's needs without encroaching further into the residential areas. The Denver International Airport was built a little bit further away from the city on a bigger plot of land so that it wouldn't disturb residents. That's the explanation for why the second one was built. It was given lots of space to expand over time, because they don't something that I realized researching the show that I never really knew before is that this was like the last airport that was built in the United States, and it opened in 1995.
Right.
So 25 years we have not built any other airports in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I think that like municipalities would just kind of do on their own over time, but I guess not. I guess it's like something we don't fuck with unless we absolutely have to.
Right.
And in this case, the city of Denver felt that it had to, and they did.
So hold on, let me back up a little bit to this swastika thing, because that's very easy. You can just look at it on Google Maps,
Right.
and I don't see it. I just don't see it. I mean, the fact that people have to draw lines to make sure that you do see it, to me, doesn't check out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it right now, and
I kind of see it, but not really.
Could you see a swastika there? Yes.
Right.
But is it blatant? No.
No, not at all. Not even close. So, that's one thing, our viewers can do, or, our listeners could do. If you're listening to this right now, go ahead and Google it right now. Go look at it. And, tell us what you think at 77359-WEIRD. But I don't see it. That was like the very first claim that I saw, and everybody's like, well, but once you get into the other stuff, you'll hear my opinion. But yeah, for first and foremost, that claim, I don't see it. And the fact that they did this, you're right, this was one of the last airports that they built, and the fact that it is so large just tells me that they were thinking of the longevity of it, and not having to spend more money to build another airport in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of, not to telegraph my punch here, but I don't think there's anything. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I think I'm going to use my moon landing explanation. I wouldn't be surprised if there's something going on necessarily, but I don't believe that.
Oh, you're just gonna give it all away, right?
I'm a slut. I'm just gonna fucking open my legs and just fucking let it all hang out right now.
Give it away for free.
I've been talking. This show's already fucking 6 hours long. We'll just cut to the chase.
Sure.
There's a lot of fucking suspect shit here, people. I ain't gonna lie. And when we get to the murals in a second, anybody that looked at these murals, because that was my introduction to this whole conspiracy theory thing, was the murals.
Mine was Lucifer.
Oh yeah.
We'll talk
my mother-in-law was just telling me about that last night. Her cousin lives in Denver, and she goes out there and she flies in and out of that. And she's like, "Oh, it's a fucking weird airport," but that's part of the reason. So why don't you tell the people about Lucifer real quick? And then I'll do murals.
Yeah. So outside of this airport is this giant fucking horse statue. It's huge. And it's kind of become like the mascot for the airport, because you can see, you don't have to go to the airport necessarily to see it. You see it. It's a big blue horse, and it has glowing red eyes, and is tall and ominous and looks mean. Lucifer killed his creator. Guess, which I don't remember the guy's fucking name, but the guy that sculpted him, a piece of the sculpture had fallen and actually had severed one of the artist's arteries, and he bled to death and died. And so a lot of people think that this horse is cursed, and that it represents like the four horsemen of the apocalypse or whatever. Um, I don't buy that necessarily, because has it killed anybody else since then?
Right.
I mean, because I guess it hasn't, and that was back in, I think, 2006 when they put this horse up. But yeah, I mean, it's one of the most, it does look scary. I mean, I'll tell you that. It looks ominous. I think it looks cool, but I like scary things, and probably a lot of the listeners do too. But I don't think that it was put up for any type of nefarious reasons. I mean, easy explanation for the glowing red eyes. It's kind of an homage to the guy's dad, because he owned a neon light store or something in Mexico or something like that. And so he put neon eyes in it so that it glowed. I mean, but again, I don't think it's cursed, because it hasn't killed anybody. And it's not like we're hearing about plane crashes coming in and out of Denver airport every day. So the curse part is a hard sell to me. Did it kill its creator? Yeah, it did. But sometimes you find a tin can in a cave. I mean,
Yeah, and the other piece of artwork that people refer to a lot is the murals. So there's like about a dozen murals all over the airport. Two of them in particular are done by an artist named Leo Tenguma. Children of the World Dream of Peace and In Peace and Harmony with Nature. And which are two of several, right? So it's not like
sure.
this is all of the murals, but this one particular artist, two of the murals that they have up, all their multi-part installations. And it's described as the Children of the World Dream of Peace is described as a powerful mural expressing the artist's desire to abolish violence in society. But basically what it is, it's a lot of kids crying and coming together to triumph over a Nazi looking soldier with a gas mask for a face, right? And then in another part of that mural, they show the Nazi guy like killing the kids. He's got like a bayonet, and the kids are fucking. There's a dead kid on the ground and shit. I mean, and it's kind of weird. Definitely look it up. I mean, it's hard to miss if you Google Denver International Airport. Uh, it's one of the first things that's going to pop up, and a lot has been made about the symbolism of this picture and what it's supposed to represent, and why are there all the children, and why are there dead kids, and oh, what the fuck could this all mean? And it's definitely symbolic art, and I mean, it's definitely thought provoking, but I don't think that it necessarily means that there's, 8 levels of bunkers for the global elite underneath it.
Yeah.
I think that the Denver International Airport, and this is something that, you know, part of the rule for Denver, the city, is that a certain amount of the budget for any project has to be directed towards local artists, right? So if you're building an, you know, $5 billion airport, 1% of that, you have to take 1% of that and put it towards artwork to be housed inside your facility from
That's
local
cool. I didn't
artists.
know that was a
Yeah,
thing.
so that's why there's a sculpture, there's a talking gargoyle by the baggage claim or some shit. Why is there this giant horse? Why is there all this stuff? Well, because they needed to do that. It was part of their requirement. Now, I work for the city of Chicago indirectly. And the reason I indirectly work for the city of Chicago is because the city of Chicago has similar rules about hiring minority owned businesses. So I'm not allowed to work directly for the city of Chicago because I need to work for minority owned business. So I work for a minority owned business that works for the city of Chicago. This unnecessary buffer is, well, I don't want to say unnecessary because we need to support minority owned businesses, but this is how like city governments work, right? Is that they put these things in there that create all this fucking red tape and like extra nonsense and shit. And that's what all this stuff is. So all the artwork in the Denver International Airport is there because they were contractually obligated to fucking invest so much money into it. And interestingly enough, it's all been taken down since 2018. 2018, they took all those fucking murals down, and they're all in storage now until some later date when they're going to be wheeled out, which maybe is part of the conspiracy as well. I'm not sure. but they're doing some renovations to the terminals, and they put all the artwork in storage so that none of it gets damaged. And the article that I read said that it was supposed to be back out on display by the end of 2021, but as of right now, it has not been.
Wow. Very interesting. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that I had a plan to kind of sidebar a little bit about the gargoyles because people are like, oh, they're scary. Pat, do you know where gargoyles come from?
France.
Do you know what they're for? Do you know why?
They chase away evil spirits. That's why they're so ugly.
They chase away evil spirits. It came from Gargoule. La Gargoule. And it was basically a big dragon. And this guy came and slayed this dragon. And there's different variations of the story. And he went to go burn the body, and the head and the neck wouldn't burn. So he threw it up on his house and was like, yeah, fuck with me, you guys. And nobody ever did, apparently. So I mean, they're protectors, they're not evil totems or anything. It was also just a very clever way to protect water spouts, to keep from having fucking your water leak into your home back in the day, and also to make it look better. So I mean, there's nothing really bad about them. I mean, all of these weird art pieces have a very easy explanation to them. I mean, they're not, it's not, there's just nothing here that screams to me that there's some big conspiracy going on. And even if there was, and I say this a lot with a lot of conspiracies. Now, I buy some conspiracies. I'm not a big conspiracy person, but I do buy some of them. Like we didn't land on the fucking moon. But even if this was, why would they let you see it all in plain sight?
So the only thing that really, I think, kind of juices me about there being some hinky shit going on, and once again, I take this with a grain of salt because logically I know better. But just like me loving the story about the fucking frogs with the magic wands, I can't help get hung up on the dedication capstone. Okay. So there's, kind of like this little monument in the Great Hall of the Denver International Airport. And it's kind of like, this airport is the Denver International Airport dedication capstone. And it's got the governor's name on there, the mayor's name on there, uh, the Secretary of Transportation. It says the time capsule beneath this stone contains messages and memorabilia to the people of Colorado in 2094. So about 100 years after it was dedicated, okay? And it's signed by the New World Airport Commission. And it's got the Masonic symbol on it. The compass with the ruler with the G in the middle, right? Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. Mason shit's always going to trigger people.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I know a couple Freemasons personally. I'm not saying they're not weird dudes. But that you got to be careful with how you utilize this stuff. And the fact that you got the Masonic symbol on the capstone, the dedication capstone for the DIA, with also the name on there, the New World Airport Commission, which doesn't exist. It's not real. There's no other reference anywhere else of there being a New World Airport Commission. It's seemingly an organization that was made up entirely just for this capstone, because there's no other documentation about them, right? I mean, New World Airport Commission's a little bit too close to New World Order, and it's about 6 inches away from a Masonic symbol on the dedication capstone for the fucking airport. I'm not saying that fucking proves or disproves anything, but if you don't want, like you had said earlier, if there was a conspiracy, why would they leave all this evidence out in front of everybody? That's pretty fucking like flagrant. And I think that, whoever did that wasn't too concerned about optics or public relations, because I wouldn't, if whether or not this stuff is real, if I didn't want people asking questions, I would not do that.
Right. You wouldn't do that. And so, I mean,
right.
I'm to be honest, I don't know too much about the Freemasons, because every time I start digging into it, I'm just like, oh my God. Oh my, this is just insane. This doesn't even make any sense. Some of it, a lot of it doesn't even make any sense. Now, granted, again, I haven't really deep dive into it. It's not a concept that I subscribe to. Maybe we'll talk about it on the show one day, and then I'll deep dive into it. But as far as that goes, you first of all have to subscribe to the idea that there's something going on with the Freemasons. Then you have to subscribe to the idea that there's some type of new world order going on, and it's not just a wrestling team. Then you
Hey, Scott Hall has been taken off the board, man.
stop. No, it's too soon. You quit it.
Oh, especially on a cryptozoology pod, you can't talk about fucking wrestlers like that
You
here.
can't talk about, no, this is not a place for
No.
that, Pat. You're gonna get canceled,
Sorry.
and I'm gonna let it happen because
I'm doing the thing with my hands right now. That little fucking weird thing he did with his hands. Like
rest in peace, Scott Hall. Genuinely.
Right, exactly.
Yes. No, we love Scott Hall here. Anyway,
I was old enough to that he was a big deal for me. I'm not shitting on that. Him and Kevin, I was more of a Kevin Nash guy. I liked him when he was Diesel, actually. But yeah, no, that I had to explain that to my wife because she's like, "You're not a wrestling person." I'm like, "Oh, but I was."
But I was, right. I know.
Yes.
I'm not now, but then yeah, I had a dog named Nash after Kevin Nash.
Yeah.
German Shepherd. Anyway. Anyway, you got to subscribe to that idea. And then if you subscribe to that idea, then I could see how all of these other things, the murals, the Blucifer, you know what I mean, the swastika, I could see how all of those things then make you go, huh, well, this place is fucking weird, But I don't subscribe to those ideas. And so I'm happy with the explanations that they give. And maybe I'm the sheep, maybe I'm the one getting on the train car in this, but there's just nothing extravagant for me with this one. But it is a big one that people really do subscribe to. And is it because they just haven't looked into it? They go, "Oh yeah, the Denver airport's weird." Why?
Well, there is a lot of smoke. I mean, when you look at the troubled construction, which this is a mega project. This is like you're building something huge. There's going to be delays. They're going to go over budget. You're going to have issues with contractors.
Right.
The layout design, I don't know. I think people are kind of seeing what they want to see there. The artwork is undeniably fucking odd.
It is weird. Yeah.
Now, whether or not it was chosen because they think that it represents something, or whether or not they told this artist to depict, like that's the thing, is like how do you suppose that conversation went down? You picked an established mural artist, originally from Texas, moved to Colorado. Okay, he's a local artist. You're going to hire him to paint these murals, but you say, "Hey, look, this is what we want you to fucking paint. We want you to paint a bunch of weird shit with kids getting killed by Nazis," right? And the guy's like, "Oh, I was actually going to do that anyway. That's a fucking brilliant idea." Like, do you think that he was commissioned to do this and that he was told what to paint? Because that's what you're honestly suggesting.
No, I think most murals are up to the discretion of the painter.
Artist. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And is it tragic that the horse sculptor was killed? Yeah, I mean 100%. But at the same time, that stuff happens, especially with sculptors, especially working on stuff that big. I'm not saying it happens all the time. I'm not saying it happens to every sculptor, but he wasn't the only sculptor ever to be killed by his art.
Right.
Right. So I don't know. I think that the dedication capstone is definitely a little like it's going to raise some flags. But it's also interesting to see the way that the Denver International Airport's really leaned into all this exposure, right? Yeah. They've designated October to be like conspiracy month, where they have costume contests, or they have theme shit, and they really kind of embrace this weird the urban legend that's growing about their airport. And another thing, and this is on one of the links that I sent you, you can find it, but there's a lot of promotional materials that they put out, especially with the renovation that's going on right now, that is like, "Hey, sorry that we're renovating right now. We're like, there's aliens and stuff," right?
Oh yeah. Oh, I've seen them post things, or I've like seen those before they started doing the renovations. But you're right, they did really lean into this.
Right, and maybe that's, once again, maybe they're mocking us, which is I think what some people would say.
They would, yeah.
But maybe it's just they figure like, well, we have a really lazy promotions team, and this is all anyone talks about anyway, so why should we have to think up something different?
Right.
We'll just use this, right? what I thought was interesting was that one of the articles that I came across on the internet talking about this whole entire thing was written in 2008, okay, which is a while ago, but it doesn't change the, it's not, that's not going to change the details about them going over budget or the artwork or anything like that. So it still was, uh, in theory, factually solid. But that article from 2008 talks about a lot of the theories about the airport. And one of the things that it references extensively is what was coming up at the time, the year 2012, and how everybody had theories about the Denver International Airport and the role that it would play in 2012, which was absolutely nothing because nothing
Right.
happened in 2012.
Nothing
And
happened. Yeah.
that's something that, as a conspiracy theorist, as a Coast to Coast AM fan, I love reminding myself about, because when I started to part ways with Coast to Coast was after 2012. Because leading up to 2020, 2012, especially in 2011, man, Coast to Coast had a different fucking theory every week, fucking 5 nights a week, about what was happening in 2012, what was going to happen. They had a different guest on with a different theory and a different book to sell. And you know what? They were all fucking wrong. None of that shit happened. But there were so many people that, hand on the Bible, swore they had inside knowledge that this was going to happen or that was going to happen. And you were only safe if you went up in the mountains, or you were only safe if you hid in the caves and all this stuff. And you got to read my book. It's all in my book. Nothing happened.
Nothing.
Nothing fucking
Yeah.
happened. So whenever I see that, probably the worst thing the conspiracy theorists could have done, for me at least, in regards to this show, is tie the Denver International Airport with 2012. Because as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, that's the last time they tried to get us all fucking hysterical about some bullshit. That's all I got to say about that for a second. I'm gonna let you respond, Ashers.
No, I agree with that. Well, there are some people, of course, that believe that the world did end in 2012 and we're all living in a simulation, or we switched dimensions, or whatever. So I mean, I, what do you say to those people? You do you, I guess. But I agree that nothing did happen. And so, where does that leave us now? It just puts it off for another big catastrophic event that inevitably won't happen, right? Because it hasn't yet. It's 2022. And so I agree. I find that interesting. That they were wrong. I'm not surprised, but I like that we kind of have that type of time capsule to kind of back that there's probably still nothing going on with this airport. Um, a lot of people say that they just feel weird going to the Denver International Airport. Um, I don't know if it's necessarily because of how everything's displayed, or, again, the giant, intimidating stallion outside. I don't know what it is. Maybe there's nothing to it. I wonder if people that have never heard of these conspiracies, I wonder if they feel the same way when they get to the airport, kind of weirded out. I'd be curious to know, but then again, it's not like we can ask people on the show because they have now heard about it. I don't know.
Well, like I said, my mother-in-law flies in and out of there a lot to visit her cousin, and she said that, oh yeah, it's a really weird place, and she kind of got weird vibes from it. Now I have a friend. This is the last point I got. So after this, I don't know if I can just wrap it up, but I figured this is a good way to end it too. So a buddy of mine, actually one of the guys I'm going to be at GaryCon with this weekend. I'll be at GaryCon in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. He's from Chicago. We grew up together. He moved out to Colorado. I think he builds tiny houses with his brother or something. But I asked him about it because me and him we talk a lot about a lot of different things, but I've made mention to the DIA before, and he's been like, oh yeah, it's fucking crazy over there. And he's acknowledged the general air of weirdness about it, right? So I asked him when I knew we were going to do this for the show, hey, look, so I'm doing the show. What specifically, is there any leads that I should look into? Do you have any good info? And he said, yeah, look into the fact that the tunnel system is unaccounted for, the size of the airport in terms of land mass, and the fact that the DIA is the biggest employer of the state. Also, whenever there are solar disruptions, the sitting president will show up in Colorado. So that last one, of course, immediately perked my ears up. because if the DIA is supposed to be some kind of fallout shelter, or surviving climate change or something, or like inherent like environmental disasters, we all know that getting hit with a sunspot, a coronal mass injection, is kind of on everybody's list of shit that could happen that would really fuck up society, right?
Sure.
So his claim that, like, yeah, whenever there's going to be a lot of sunspot activity, president shows up in Colorado. I'm like, all right, let me look into that, right? So I did, and he's not necessarily lying, but it's not as apples to apples as I would have liked it to be. Okay. So there's definitely, I don't know how often, so what really you would have to do to look into this, which I didn't do because I have a fucking life, people, is take a list of basically the like every president's itinerary, right, for the past fucking 20 years. Like, where are they? Where are they going? Right? And then get a list of sunspot activity. Okay. Now that sunspot activity list, that's very easy to get.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can go on the internet, you can get it pretty simple, pretty easily. Information about where the president is at any given date, a little bit harder. But what you can do is look at the dates that there was heavy sunspot activity, solar disruption, and see if the president was in Colorado around that time. Now, depending on what you consider to be around that time, using air quotes, then yes, it does match up. But I didn't go back far enough. I only did it with Biden, okay? I didn't go back far enough to see if this is something that continued through Bush and Obama, all right? Number one. And number two, around that time has to mean about a week.
Okay.
So depending on what exactly the sunspot website is measuring, when those sunspots are hitting the earth, when the earth would be the most vulnerable, there's a lot that it's kind of a lot more dots to connect, which I didn't fully do because I have a life. But I invite the audience to do it. Give us a call at 773-59-WEIRD and let us know.
Absolutely.
Because if you look at, like, okay, there was a sunspot maximum on October 17th, and I think this might be exactly one from memory. October 17th, 2021. I'm sorry, October 27th, 2021. There was a solar maximum, so there was a lot of activity, right? When was Biden in Denver, Colorado? October 16th, 2021. Okay. So like a week before. Now you look at it again. When was the next one? December. And let's say December 21st was when Biden was in town. When was there a solar maximum? December 26th or something. So it's like, I don't know. Maybe that's exactly what's happening. I don't know. I don't know enough about sunspots. I don't know exactly how long Biden's staying in town for. But I guess it's something if you want to research when you're bored at work tomorrow or whenever you hear this. Like, it's something worth looking into. But I don't think it was a smoking gun. But I don't even know how you would prove that, because how would you know? And I asked him, like, can you elaborate on this? And he didn't. He was like one of those O'Hare people that like suddenly just stops talking to you. And he's like, all right.
Yeah, no, he's a Terry Wrist. No, it's
right. Now there you go. But the other claim he makes about the tunnel system being unaccounted for, yes, there's extensive underground tunnels at O'Hare at Denver International Airport. But I also know there's extensive underground tunnels at Midway Airport, because I used to work at the Ford City Mall and they were connected.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tunnels under a lot of different big facilities. Specifically with the DIA, they were trying to build this like revolutionary baggage claim system that I don't think ever worked. So there's a lot of it, like unused real estate basically underneath the airport for this thing. That might account for some of it. What he says about the fact that DIA is the biggest employer of the state, I don't know what that has to do with anything, except that, because O'Hare, like, I guess O'Hare is basically not owned by Chicago, but they funnel a lot of money into it or something. I don't know.
Huh. I mean, I often wonder what our obsession is with basements. Like, why are we so obsessed about things that are underground? I mean, basements, people have basements in their home. and all you'd have to do is connect your basement to your neighbor's basement, and you got a tunnel. I mean, I, does that mean that you are taking over the world? I don't think so. But hey, that's I just don't see a lot in this. Do you remember back in it was sometime between 2010 and 2013 where I don't remember which airport it was, and maybe it was the Denver airport. One of the airports shut down. And a lot of people were talking about maybe it was a UFO sighting or there was something weird going on. And then it happened again at the same airport within like a week or, I mean, something super close to it. Does that sound familiar at all?
No.
No, I have to dig into this because I was just kind of thinking about it just now. And I did see that China had this happen at one of their airports, but it wasn't China. It was somewhere here. It was happening in the United States. And I can't remember. At first, I thought maybe it was the John F. Kennedy International Airport, which is also another weird one. Airports just have a lot of stories behind them. It's weird. Chicago O'Hare Airport, they had a UFO sighting, a famous one back in 2006, which
And
was
all
a
that Mothman stuff too. I
maybe
mean,
so, yeah. Right.
yeah, that that could be for a couple different reasons. It could be because airports are, where you
Exhausting.
have they're what?
Exhausting.
Right. Well, I mean, you do have things legitimately flying in and out of them.
You do.
And if, you were military and you were trying to move stuff and transport stuff, they're there's shipping stations.
Right.
Stuff comes in, stuff gets moved around, stuff gets moved out. Is it all benign, normal shit? Maybe. Or maybe sometimes it's top secret stuff. Sometimes it's, people
Mothman.
shit in cages. Sometimes the shit gets out of the cage or all, there's the potential for, all kinds of shenanigans there, you know. Um, so I could see where airports could be seen as kind of like epicenters for high strangeness. But also, you got planes taking off and landing, and you could have goofballs in the neighborhood surrounding them mistaking planes taking off and landing, or helicopters taking off and landing, or small planes taking off and landing. Like, it's not like the only thing that flies in and out of O'Hare are like 747s. There's still like smaller commercial Cessnas and stuff that like come in and out, or like
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff too. And if you're in the area and you're expecting to see big planes come through, and then you see kind of a smaller thing or a smaller little helicopter, you could misidentify it. The Air Force uses airports. They still got to fly their planes around. They can all it's not always just military base to military base. So,
Yep, I agree with that. I mean, is there anything that we missed out, guys? Is there any smoking gun to this? I'm a little disappointed.
yeah, I think, well, so supposedly what happened was Jesse Ventura had a conspiracy show, and he did an episode on this, and that's what blew the whole thing up. And it became like, it kind of like catapulted into pop culture consciousness. So this is one of those that like everybody's been hearing about for a while, but people really, it's always just kind of like something you see mentioned online or whatever. But I think once you sit down and you kind of unpack it all, unfortunately, like a lot of this stuff, there's just not anything there. You know what I
Very
mean?
mundane. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I feel like I just felt like there was going to be something that was going to be like, well, but that's fucking weird, and really none of it's really that weird. Like I said, I'm disappointed. And sometimes it happens with these topics. Savannah syndrome was also a big disappointment. It's just
Well, I don't think it's necessarily I think it's, the goal here is always to better understand the world we live in.
absolutely.
And if the truth isn't as sexy or as fantastical as we want it to be, oh fucking well, sometimes it's, Mothman and Havana syndrome, and sometimes it's just Evan Newport being a dick on the phone, you know.
God damn it, Pat. I almost got away with not having to edit the end of this episode. You fucker. Um, Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is that. Sometimes it's terrible things, and sometimes we didn't land on the moon really, and 9/11 was an inside job, but sometimes ain't shit going on at the Denver airport, and except for a big blue horse.
Did we ever do a 9/11 episode? I know we talked about our 9/11 experiences, but did we ever do a 9/11 was an inside job episode?
Yeah, we did it for 9/11. It was one of the first episodes we ever did together. You guys should go listen to it.
I should go listen to it.
You
Should
should
I
listen to
remember
it. Yeah. Yeah, we talked.
Yeah.
That's why we talked about our experiences. That's why we did it. It was 9/11. Good
Yeah.
episode. Good episode. But no, I mean, sometimes there's just nothing to these things, and sometimes that's just as important as debunking, because now we can focus on other things that did actually probably happen. So there's that. So
Man, this is the fucking hell year of all podcast episodes.
it really is.
We got prank phone calls and we're debunking bullshit synchronicities.
This is the hell year episode, you guys.
Man, talk about life imitating art.
the official hell year episode is very uneventful, and sometimes it's like that. But
And rambling, it went on an episode too long.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, I got nothing else. Do you got anything else, Pat? All right. There's no password this week. I'm too stressed and mentally exhausted to think of one. So think of one. You guys think of a password, and you just.
I got one.
Okay, go ahead. No. I know what it's gonna be. No.
No, it's not that.
Okay, what's it gonna be?
Patreon.
That's a good password.
That's a very good password.
That's a good password. This week's password is Patreon. Also, guys, tell me what you would like to see in a Patreon. Would you like on Wednesdays We Talk Weird exclusive content over on Patreon that you get to spend your money on? Because I would like that. Let me know. Let me know what you think. Let Pat know what you think. Just let us know what you think. I don't know. At 773-59-WEIRD. Anyway, I'll stop shilling. That's going to be it for this week, guys. We'll see you back here next Wednesday.